Never gonna be president now. I'm listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. Morning, slaves. Yeah, I went and saw the show. It was great. And it got me to, hold on, let me turn this down. This is the part where they're all dancing around. Jefferson is dancing around saying, Hamilton's never going to be the president now. One less thing to worry about. Okay, so it got me to thinking, all right, I'm reading the book right now. I'm almost finished Hamilton. And in an election year, you kind of think of these things as far as the presidency goes. And I've always wondered, where did the two-party system come? Now, if you've seen the show and you're a fanboy of, Lin Miranda and his version of Hamilton, or you think Hamilton was some sort of, immigration, pro, whatever you're thinking, you think again. You need to read the book. The book is long. I read basically about an hour of it a night. And there's different parts, and there's a lot more in the book than there is in that show. And don't get me wrong, the musical's fantastic. That's the stepping off point as a young person that's going to get you into, Hamilton, Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Constitution, the Revolution, the battles. If these are the things, if this is a jumping off point, then hey, I think it's great. But today I want to talk about one particular part that I'm going through right now because it's been on my mind for weeks since I've read this. Because I've been telling people, I said, did you know that the two-party system started around this time? And I've read a big book, a big tome on Adams last year, sitting on the train, gonna listen to something. And now I'm reading Hamilton this winter. And then maybe I need to read a book on Jefferson. But the book I'm reading on Hamilton right now, the Chernow book, the one that Lin Miranda used as a guide for his show, Hamilton. It started, that song, Never Gonna Be President Now. He was the president, Hamilton was. De facto, vis-a-vis Washington's. He did all this work for Washington. And wrote just a ton of stuff. So how did the two-party system get started? I don't know. How do you put this in a nutshell? Or how do I put it in a nutshell? If we were talking at a cocktail party right now, Jefferson was an asshole. He hated Hamilton. He didn't like what he did. They hated each other. There's a lot of behind the scenes, and they wrote everything down. So that's just it. Most of the stuff. Jefferson was from the South, as you know, owned slaves. There's a good book out that refutes all that stuff. Not that he didn't own slaves, but they give an example of all the fallacies about Jefferson. So I'm going to read that book. I don't remember the name, but I can find it. It's easy. It's out there. They did everything they could to undermine Hamilton and Washington. Various means. And they were called the Republicans at the time, which then I guess they turned into the Democrats because the Hamilton, the Federalists, turned into the Whigs, which turned into the Republicans. But I'm kind of confused on, was the Federalists, they were for big government, which is kind of like what the Democrats are for in states' rights. But anyway, that's later. Everything changes. But I guess their job at the time, or at least Jefferson thought, was just to be a total dickhead and create, animosity through letters and papers and stuff against Washington. They didn't like the army. They didn't want an army. It was really weird times then. It all took place in Philadelphia. And growing up in Philadelphia, I didn't really know all this stuff in the 1790s. I'll give you an example, the Whiskey Rebellion. Hamilton goes out to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, I don't know, all places, with Washington in a stagecoach, and he's old, and Hamilton's out there, and he's ready to kick some ass out with the hillbillies out in Appalachia that are doing bootlegging. I know, crazy. And he gets out there, and there's all these soldiers that really aren't prepared. And he's like, crack colonel in the Revolutionary War, and he's showing them how to fix guns and shit, and he's just telling them how to do stuff. And he's like, we need a standing army. This shit ain't gonna work, right? And again, he was met with, pushback from Jefferson. And everybody says, well, pushback's good. This is how the American way works, two-party system. Then it comes time for the French Revolution. And Jefferson, the dandy, and I'm using that word dandy, look it up, he's all dressed up. Even in the show Hamilton, he's like, flamboyant, comes out in a purple outfit, and he's like, never gonna be president now, never gonna be president now. And he's jumping all around. And he was down with the French. And Hamilton and Adams were like, dude, they're killing people, they're chopping people's heads off, there's no rule of law. These French people are just, they're whack. We can't support these guys. And they're like, well, the French helped us, Lafayette. And they're like, that was a deal we made with the king. King, whoever the king of France was at the time, I can't remember, it slips my mind. But they cut his head off, they cut up Marie Antoinette's head off. And they're like, these aren't people we want to deal with. This isn't a rule of law. And Jefferson's pushing, and Hamilton's like, no, we're not doing it. And we need a standing army, blah, blah, blah. So it was these little things, and you should have seen in the book, if you read the book, there was so much, pushback at that time. And you think, what? It was the 1790s. And I could get into the stock trading and all this. So, the book goes into a lot of stuff. But just to end this off, in the book that I'm up to right now, Jefferson and Hamilton are, Washington's out of power now, Hamilton's kind of out of power, and they're doing with Adams. And anyway, it's the start of the two-party system. Anyway, tell me your thoughts on that. Hope this wasn't too long. And I'll just go back listening to my Hamilton soundtrack. And by the way, there's a mixtape out, which is actually kind of cool. I mean, again, if it gets you off into history books or whatnot, if you're young, you're watching this, hey, more power to you. Read the long ones. Do the audio book so you can get through them. Read the book, listen to the audio, become the smartest person in your class, whether you're in 8th grade, 7th grade, high school. You can excel, you can get ahead of this stuff, and you can really know this, and you can challenge your teachers in school. Anyway, that's all I got for today. See you later, slaves.